Hello, welcome guys to another YouTube flashcard session. It's been a long time. I told you guys I promised you guys I was going to have a flashcard again, so I had to deliver. Thank you guys for your patience. Alright, now today we're going to look at AUD USD, BTC USD, GBP JPY, Euro CAD, and then I think GBP USD also. We're going to look at the perspective I took these trades from, what I was expecting to happen and what actually happened. Now, once more, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, notification bell, and get notified anytime I drop a video like this for you guys. Alright, so I don't want to waste too much time. Let's quickly get into these trades. Now let's start from AUD USD. Let's look at what happened, what we're expecting to happen in AUD USD, and what really happened. Now AUD USD had a bullish bias. Alright, now I'm not going to go into how it came about a bullish bias and all that. We are going to leave that for the exclusives. Okay, for those who are in the mentorship and exclusive pages, right? We are going to leave that for those ones, for those guys in there. So just know that this trade had a bullish origin. Okay, so price came into this pullback from a previous low into this high, and then a pullback into internal range liquidity here. So internal liquidity from this swing low, previous swing low, which doesn't show, into this swing high here, and then a pullback gave us this price data here. So internal liquidity gave this data here. Now this data gave us an entry model into the highs of this previous high, to break this high for a continuation. So price has made a higher high, a pullback, giving data here into more highs for the continuation, for the bullish continuation. Okay, so should I say ahead for the bullish order flow, right? So all we did was to continue the bullish order flow. Price gave us data to look for entries for continuation into more buys. Okay, into buys into higher zones. Okay, so that is what we had here. So price took out this low and then came above these highs. You know what that happens from a lower low to a higher high. Now that model here gives us a break in market structure within that internal range liquidity. Okay, so now price now pulled back into, we are expecting price to pull back into one of these zones for an entry into more highs. Okay, I was expecting price to pull back into either this zone or this zone. I didn't want to either miss out on one zone or be in the trade too early on one zone. Okay, so I marked out these two zones and I put my stop loss below these two zones, so that in case I am too early, the stop loss will cover, and in case I'm too late to the other zone too, the first zone will cover, and then in case I'm too late to the second zone will cover. Okay, so this is what I was expecting to happen in 5 minutes time frame, and then price came to hit our entry nicely, and then went all the way up to take. I think this was a 1-7 Rex reward trade or so. I don't really remember, and I think I gave this trade out into our VIP channels as so. So I'm sure members in the VIP enjoyed this trade very well. So that's how AUD USD was wrapped up. Very, very simple, nothing complicated. You know, sometimes you really don't need to get, you don't need to get too much going on in your head. You just need to just see the simplicity of everything. Okay, now let's move on to the next trade. So this was a nice one. This was BTC USD 1 hour time frame now. So right from down here, we could see price was making higher highs and higher lows. So once again, we're just following the bullish order flow of BTC USD, making higher highs up into more highs, broke structure, made a pullback, and then broke structure again here, and then pull back again here. So what I noticed was price had hit a WIMP candle here. I'm not going to explain what a WIMP candle is. Is in one of my YouTube videos. You can check it out. So price made it into the H1 wimp candle. And we know how effective H1 wimp candles are. They are more effective on 1 hour time frame. So price, following the bullish order flow, price made this high here and pull back into this candle. Okay, so we're expecting price to make it above these highs and continue the bullish order flow. Okay, once these lows were intact, there was no reason to look for sells. We're only going to look for buys and follow the trend. Okay, so price pulled back into this whip candle, and then we're expecting price to move a high into more highs from the whip candle. Okay, so we had to refine the zone of the whip candle. Now we find into 1 minute we saw a break structure. We saw price failing to make new lows and then breaking old highs. Okay, price broke structure here. Then we're expecting price to make a discount, a pullback into a discount zone here, into this hidden order block here. So we put our limit order here, and then price went a little bit high and then came back into discount sensitive zone. Sorry, into our discount sensitive zone that we marked here, and then went all the way high into take profit. This was another 1 to 7 weeks over trade, and you could see price here now making, from the 1 hour perspective we saw here, you could see price now reacting from the wimp candle. So we refined this zone and we got a 1 minute entry. Of course, a 1 minute entry gave us a smaller stop loss. Okay, so we caught the trade with relatively lesser risk. Okay, from the 1 hour time frame, and then you could see price on this way too. Now price eventually took this high and went more high, more higher. Okay, so it took out this high and continued the bullish order flow nicely in BTC USD. So let's move on to the next trade. This was another nice one. So Euro CAD 1 hour time frame. So we saw price create these equal lows here. Okay, now we know BFI manipulation. We know market manipulation and BFI involvement in things like that, like this. Okay, now these lows created here obviously had a lot of liquidity below them. Now price aggressively took these lows here. Now looking at the nature of how price took these lows, it gave me an idea of possible market manipulation here. Now BFI wanted others to drive prices higher, and they knew retailers would obviously have orders here. Now what price did is price aggressively. Now what caught my attention was the nature in which price was, these lows here were taking out. It was very aggressive. Now that gives you an idea of what is happening. The nature of the liquidity here, of liquidity taking here, is what gave me an idea. Price quickly took the orders very aggressively and then left this candle, this big wick here. Now what that means is that there are orders in here for BFI to take. Okay, now price slowly came down into this wick, this big imbalance wick. Okay, now within that wick there was an intrinsic demand created. There's a video on intrinsic demand on YouTube as well, so you guys can go and check it out. So first, price aggressively take these lows, grab retail orders, goes up and then leaves a huge imbalance in this wick. Then price slowly comes into this imbalance to pick up the orders, and within that imbalance in 1 hour, an intrinsic demand is created. So what I wanted to do was refine that demand zone within that imbalance. So refining it, I saw lower low, lower low, and then higher high. Okay, so price broke structure here and then pull back into structure in 1 minute. Let me increase it a little bit. It's a little bit blurry, but so price, this is within the one, this is 1 hour refined, the intrinsic demand in 1 hour refined. So price 1 2 3, then broke structure here and then pull back into the structure. Okay, and then that is when I saw that price was about to move up when I saw this model here created. Okay, now so I entered my trade after the short pullback, and then you could see what happened here. Price went all the way up and hit to take profit. This was, I think, was a 1 to 9 risk reward or 1 to 7. I don't really remember. This trade was also shared in our VIP channels, and everybody enjoyed it. So you can see from the 1 hour view here. Okay, here what happened here, and then again in the 1 hour view. So price took out liquidity here aggressively, left imbalance here, came back for it, and then created intrinsic demand. We refined that intrinsic demand for an entry nicely, and then you could see the outcome in 1 hour. This is how we took Euro CAD as well. Now let's move on to GBP JPY. So GBP JPY also had a bearish order flow, making lower lows and lower high in higher time frame. Price pulled, we saw price making this low here, and then we saw a range created here. Now this trade was based on a model I've just learned and I'm backtesting. Okay, it's called the RIMC model. Okay, so and I've been backtesting for a while and I'm seeing the results from it. Okay, it's from uh, NJ80. I want to give them the credit before they find this video and tell me that I've copyrighted their model, blah blah. So I'm giving them the credit, NJ80. So this model was from something that I've been backtesting from NJ80. It's called the RIMC model. It's a range, initiation, mitigation, and then continuation. So when price creates a range, okay, price pushes down from the range or up from the range. When price goes back to mitigate the range, there's a huge possibility price makes a continuation. Okay, and that's of course after coming concluding your bias. Okay, so if you have an overall bearish bias and you see this model forming, then you are going to look for an entry into continuation of the bearish bias from that model. Okay, so we saw our range here and we're expecting price to we saw our range created and then an initiation here, so we were expecting price to make a mitigation and then look for a lower time frame entry into continuation. Okay, so we're expecting GBP JPY to make it into the range and then continue, and then we can see that price made it into the range. I had a lower time frame entry here, but I'm not going to share that here because I didn't share it with the community, so I'm not going to really share that here. So but we could see price made it into the range and then eventually came down nicely as we were expecting here. Okay, so that was from the RIMC model, the range initiation mitigation continuation model, and we could see how price nicely mitigated the range and then continued downwards. Okay, now let's move on to our next trade, which was GBP USD. Okay, now GBP USD also had a bullish bias. Okay, I'm not going to go into what the bullish bias was. Okay, how we came about the bullish bias, but we are looking at price making a pullback again into internal range of GBP USD. Okay, and creating this data here, failed to make no new lows here, broke this high. Okay, and then broke another high. Now we're expecting price to hit either of these two zones for a reaction. Okay, so we had our first entry, now we had our second entry here. Okay, we're expecting price to mitigate one of these zones and form a new high and continues the bullish overall higher time frame order flow, okay, of GBP USD. So what you are seeing is GBP USD had a bullish overall higher time frame order flow. Okay, and when price pulled back, internal liquidity of this of the previous high to the previous low to the previous high here. Okay, that range here, okay, of the previous low to the previous high here created this price data here that gave us an entry model. Okay, so we had two trade entries. Price failed to break structure lower, and then broke old high, broke another high. You're expecting either of these two entries. Now what happened is that the first entry hit stop loss, but then the second entry came nicely into into price, and then went all the way into take profit. This entry here is the one that gave us the entry into price. Okay, and then it hit our take profits nicely. It was a very nice trade. This trade I shared with the community as well, so we saw how nicely we that came about. Okay, so let's move on to gold here. So gold 1 minute time frame, we're just following the bearish order flow. Okay, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Price made a lower low, lower high, lower low again, and then lower high into this zone. We saw a reaction from this zone. We're expecting price to make another lower low. Once this high is intact, and the reaction here from this zone here was nice. We're expecting price to go more lower, so we put our entry here, and then we see price mitigated the entry nicely, and then gave us a beautiful reaction, breaking this low, and then it continued down next. So we just followed the bearish order flow, nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just lower low, lower high forming. Once the highs are intact, then we know that price is still in the bearish order flow. Took our entry from that zone, mitigated it, and then it was a nice one. Our last trade was USD Okay, now USD again had a bullish, a bearish, but bearish order flow. Okay, so price made a low and then a pullback. We're expecting price to break this high, this low, and then continue with the bearish order flow. Now again, internal range here from this high, okay, to this low. This range here, whatever happens within this range is within the internal range. Okay, so we're expecting price to give us a data within the internal range here for a sell entry to make new lows here. Okay, and that is exactly what we had. The price broke this low structure. We're expecting price to hit this 5 minute swing candle and then give us a proper entry into new lows. Okay, to take this low and continue the bearish order flow, and that is exactly what happened. Price hit that wimp candle here for a reaction, and then broke this low, continued the bearish order flow to hit our take profit nicely. So that is how we wrapped up these trades. This trade I shared it to the VIP channels as well. So I'm sure the VIP members again enjoy this trade. This is how we wrapped up these trades on our channels. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have learned something from these trades. You can go and backtest the models in these trades in your day-to-day trading, and then see how it goes for you. Thank you once more for watching, and then make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification button, and then get notified anytime we drop a video like this. Stay safe.